and welcome. Today's guest is a best-selling author, host of the Not Over, Just Different podcast, co-host of the cable TV show Wake Up, and founder of Mind Movies, a revolutionary online personal development company that has reached over 10 million people worldwide. Passionate about empowering the next generation to live fulfilling and successful lives with high esteem and a vision for a bright future, she has launched her groundbreaking social and emotional learning curriculum, Personal Growth Studies, into schools across the U.S. and internationally beyond. Recognized for her vast humanitarian work, she has been knighted by the Orthodox Order of St. John. Please welcome Dame Natalie Ledwell.
You make me sound all important when you call me Dame.
Welcome, Natalie. It is so great to have you here. Wow. Just wow. Now, you have had quite a journey. You are not native to the U.S., but you are based in the U.S. So how did you get here? What brought you here?
Well, business and a serendipitous version of events that unfolded to get me here. So this is, I think, 2006 is kind of the beginning of the journey. I remember having this monumental moment of frustration, looking at my bills and looking at my bank balance on my computer going, I'm missing some vital piece of information here because, I had been a student of personal development from the age of 21. One of my bosses handed me a set of cassettes by Brian Tracy, so that was my introduction into that world. So I knew how to set goals. I knew how to take action. Actually, at the time, my husband at the time and I had 4 businesses we were running at the same time.
Wow.
And I'm like, how are we not getting ahead? This is crazy. What's going on? So not long after that, a friend suggested that I buy a DVD online called The Secret, which talks about the law of attraction, which actually was my first introduction to the law of attraction. I'm like 37, 38 at this stage. And I'm like, how did I miss this? This is really important. And so part of, applying the law of attraction is the ability to be able to see yourself and visualize in your mind you're already living this life, living in that house, driving that car, whatever that is. And so they recommended the movie to make a vision board where you cut out photos of magazines of, the car, the house, the vacation, so that when you look at that board, it's easy for you to imagine yourself in that house or on that vacation. And so a friend of ours approached us and showed us this little slideshow, this little video he'd put together, which was like PowerPoint slides that had affirmations on them with photos in between that enhanced those affirmations and music. And it was his version of a vision board. I'm like, dude, you need to show me how to make one of these. This is awesome. And then he approached Glenn, my ex-husband, and I with the idea of setting up a website so that we could, put up the instructions so people around the world could make these videos for themselves. Yeah. So at the time, not only did we have 4 businesses, but, Glenn could hardly turn on a computer. I hadn't even heard of YouTube. This is 2007. Yeah. And that's where we started with this kind of brilliant idea that to help people visualize as a part of the process of the law of attraction. So we ended up coming over to the US because within months we were getting emails from people saying, this is changing my life. Yeah. We attended an internet marketing seminar to figure out the internet thing, joined a mastermind group, and then 6 months later we did our big launch to the world where we grew our community, our email list from 8,000 to like 80,000. And wow. We did like a $700,000 launch with this little $100 product. So it's kind of what put us on the map.
That is amazing. So what a journey, because you weren't new to entrepreneurship. To your point, you had 4 existing businesses, and yet you weren't seeing the abundance and the financial success as the fruit of those businesses. And then here's this idea that falls into your lap, and the rest is history. Now, that road to entrepreneurship It's not easy. I mean, you mentioned already the divergence between the amount of time that you were working, the amount of effort you had in these four businesses, and your bank account. So in those early days, how did you navigate the frustration or the overwhelm or the disappointment? How did you navigate those stages of entrepreneurship?
Well, I was very lucky. You know, when I was 21 years old, I was working in the fitness industry and I was like a freelance aerobics instructor, and I was working at one of these gyms, and I'm like, you know what? I think I can do a better job of running this gym than you can. So I talked my way into this position of being the manager of this fitness club. So, and I figured things out pretty quickly. But then I had an 11-year career in the fitness industry where I was working for a number of different fitness centers and kept, working my way up. These club owners spent a lot of time and money investing in their teams and in me particularly. And so I got to cut my entrepreneurial teeth on other people's businesses, which was awesome. And then after 11 years, I'm like, I'm kind of done with this. I'm ready for something new. And that's when I met my now ex-husband, Glenn. And our first business together was a nightclub, which you think, whoa, that's like vastly different, but it's still a service industry. And so a lot of the things that I learned in fitness, I was able to apply to this business as well. So we probably had maybe 20 different kinds of businesses together, and working together as a couple, in these different entrepreneurial, examples and opportunities. What we learned was, business acumen is the same. Even when we got into this internet thing, like the business acumen that we brought with us was the same. It was just a different industry or different nuances in it. Also when you're working with a partner, we're fortunate in that our skill sets complement each other. We have this thing, it's like, that's your department, that's my department, and we don't mess in each other's departments, which has worked very well for us. But when we were doing the launch for Mind Movies, and we're living in San Diego, we're living under the flight path of San Diego Airport. So we had planes go over the whole time. But we had to learn how to write emails and build websites and set up autoresponders and all these things that were foreign to us because we had no money to pay anyone else to do it. We had to figure it out ourselves. And so what we'd often do is when we got really stressed, we'd leave the apartment, we'd go and grab a coffee, we'd go down to the dog beach in Ocean Beach. So seeing dogs frolicking around the beach with big smiles on their faces helped us to change our state, helped us to get into a higher frequency. And then from that place, we used to have these discussions in present tense as if the launch was already done. And it was a massive success. And we were talking about how we're taking our families on vacations and where we're eating out at fancy restaurants and, the respect that we were getting from our peers and the people that we got to serve, which came a self-fulfilling prophecy because that's what we were able to create because we were very clear about where we were ending up. So whenever I get super stressed about anything, because I like to push the envelope and step outside my comfort zone as often as possible, for me, it's like if I feel myself getting stressed, I either, number one, know where to go to ask for help. Number two, I change my state so that I'm feeling like a higher frequency. And then number three, I remind myself why I'm going through all of this because I'm very clear what my end goal is going to be.
That is amazing. So helpful. And, those are actionable tools that anyone in the audience can implement, right? Changing your state, getting outside of your environment. I love the idea of reminding yourself why you're doing it. I love the idea of focusing on the people that you're serving, right? Getting outside of yourself, focusing on that service. And I love that you threw in the dog beach and the smile, right? Watching the dogs play. I mean, that is actually a really profound golden nugget to do something that allows you to smile, that makes you happy, that brings you joy. I mean, it's a much broader application than a dog beach, but it says so much. Now, you mentioned reminding yourself why you do it and the clarity that you have with your purpose. So walk us through, how did you find your purpose?
Well, I think all of our purposes is pretty much the same, to be the best version of ourselves and to contribute to humanity. That's what I feel all of our purposes are. Our mission on how that shows up is often different. So for the last 15 years, Mind Movies has been my mission. And we've actually tallied up just recently, and after the last couple of years with pandemic, we've actually reached 10 million people, which has been a goal that we've been working towards for a very long time. And to be able to enhance the lives of 10 million people, and this is not like giving them a silver bullet and going, here you go, like go off and do that. We're empowering them and giving them the tools and helping them to change their mindset in a way that's going to be a lifelong change for them. So for me, this has been my passion. It's been my mission. It's who I am. It's how I show up. And I absolutely love it. And in the introduction, you were alluding to how I've now created this curriculum for schools, and seeing how tough it is for children to cope to these days. I mean, our childhood is not their childhood,
right?
Between social media and everything. And now the 2 years of pandemic, it's been a challenge for them. And I'm like, no, I can help here. Now, I don't know whether I'm qualified to help. I certainly bring a certain amount to this project in that, of being able to set up the digital, part of it and the platforms and the marketing and so forth. So I'm like, well, who can I get to help me? So I have a colleague who has 2 master's degrees who's worked with children in trauma for 20 years. So she's helped with the curriculum. So it's finding all these different things. So now my mission is shifting into something that's even, that's my next step. And I'm not saying that this will be the mission for the rest of my life. It could morph into something else again. Who knows?
Yeah, I love that point, because I think so many people feel like I have to figure out the thing. It's the thing that I'm here to do, the thing that I need to do. And so I think that's a really important point that you bring up, that you can find the thing that lights you up, that's your mission, that's your purpose in this moment of your life.
Exactly.
And that it can grow and evolve and change as you grow and evolve and change, or as the world changes. And so I think that's a really insightful point, is find the thing that lights you up now and be open to that iterating, evolving, growing, changing. So how do you stay aligned once you have identified it?
Right. So how I stay aligned is it focusing on what that end result is going to look like. I make a mind movie for all of my endeavors, whether that's finding love, my health, the children's project, mind movies, I will make a mind movie for that. And how I comprehensively describe this end result, this reality that I'm creating is, first of all, I'm using affirmations. So affirmations I like to use because they're written in present tense, because when I read them, I need to go there in my mind and see it as if it's happening now. So that's why I use an affirmation. And it's also helping me to use the right language around that. But when I'm writing my affirmations, I talk about what it is that I want. So I want to reach children globally and empower them to live fulfilling lives. Then I talk about what life looks like now that I've reached that goal, because really that's what I'm going to be using in my visualization. I've got to see what it's like to live as if this is already my reality. Then I focus on why I'm doing this. And of course, why for the children, why for me, why for the people that I love, and how that's going to influence them as well. I think about any kind of actions and things I need to do to be able to move towards that goal. And then the last one, which is really important, is what I call my thought affirmations. So how do I need to change the way I think to be able to become this person, or to be able to achieve this particular reality? So I know that my thoughts have got me to where I am right now. And if I'm not completely happy with where I am right now, the good news is I have to change my thoughts, which is great. So I think about, how does a person who is working in this field, how are they thinking? For me, I have thoughts like, success comes to me easily. I'm able to reach schools globally. I work well with children and get to really facilitate a transformation for them. And when I can write out those affirmations, add some photos, and then the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack I have for this particular My Movie for the children's program is a song called Beautiful by Christina Aguilera. And if you listen to the lyrics of that song, she's talking about, you are beautiful. It doesn't matter what they say. Words can bring you down, but you can rise above because you are amazing. You're beautiful. You are this incredible person. So it's an appropriate song for that particular My Movie. And then when I'm watching that, like I still can't watch that My Movie and not cry because I have all of these feelings and these emotions welling up going, I know I can do this. This is what's going to happen. And that's what keeps moving forward.
That is so beautiful to use that song. And I love that you're adding this profound layer that I think is so often overlooked in these kind of discussions. I mean, so many people have heard, oh, use affirmations, say your I am statements. And I love that you're saying, yes, and take it further. See yourself, do the visualizations, create the reality. And I love that you're putting yourself in it. So the notion that watching this mind movie, this beautiful reality that you're creating, evokes such emotion each and every time, that's really the secret sauce that is going to supercharge the transformation. That's amazing.
Yeah, the song becomes like an anchor. Like the song that I used for my original My Movie back in 2006 was Clocks by Coldplay. Now, I can't listen to that song and not have tears because that My Movie was the beginning of this incredible life that I get to live. This life that it didn't matter what I had in my Mind Movie, what I get to live right now far surpasses anything I could have ever dreamt up for myself. Yeah. But that Mind Movie was the beginning of it all. And so that song becomes like the anthem or the anchor. So you could even be driving the car and the song that you use that you connect to your dreams and your reality comes onto the radio and you can instantly go there in your mind. You're already transported into this beautiful future and feeling what it's like to already be there. And I think that was one of the keys that I took away when I watched The Secret. It's not just being able to see yourself in this future, but the emotions that you feel are most important. Because what we realize, like when you look at the law of attraction, it says like energy attracts like energy. So you go, great, everything's made up of energy. I just need to resonate at the same frequency as the things that I want to create. So how do I do that? And how we do that is through our emotions. Our emotions are the frequency that we're sending out into the unified field or out into the universe. And so when we can feel what it's like to already be in that future, what it's going to be like to have that success, to help those kids, to reach that goal weight, to be in love, then we become this homing beacon for everything that we need to make that a reality. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I think that's a really profound point that you just made. So I want to make sure that it's not missed by the audience. So when you are in that vibrational frequency, you become the homing beacon for the things that you can attract to make that a reality. I think so many people say, oh, well, I can't just think it and then have it. And so it's this piece of when you are aligned, when you are that vibrational match, you are supported because you are attracting the right people who can help you make that dream a reality. The doors open, the connections open, the clients come. All of these pieces come together as that match. So I think that was a really important point. Thank you for so eloquently bringing that up. Super important. So we've talked about how you're able to find your purpose and stay aligned. What is one tip that you can give someone who is feeling uncertain, feeling unsure, feeling like they have all of these things that they want to do, or all of these things that light them up, all of these things that they would love to do, and they're overwhelmed and don't know how to get that clarity?
Yeah. Well, actually, I work with thousands of people who are exactly that. Because of my age, I attract a lot of, middle-aged women into my community. And so, they're at a point in their life where the kids are off to college, they may not have to work anymore. And they're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And it's such an amazing part of life because we're still healthy. We've still got lots of energy. We want to contribute. And we're like, well, what is this purpose? How can I be of service? How can I fulfill that? I actually even have women in their 60s and 70s who are also in, how do I contribute at this time of my life? And so my recommendation is to look at the breadcrumbs. And what I mean by that is to go back into your life and go, okay, what was I good at? What did I love doing? What do people compliment me on? And if I could do anything and money wasn't an option, what would I do? Because sometimes we can look at, these different pieces and often people, when they start to work with me, they go, look, I want to start a business, but I have no idea what that is. You go, great. You don't even need to know just yet. All you need to know is that you want to have a business, and then you want to start explaining or describing the macro parts of that. Are you working from home? What kind of industry, or what, are you service? Is it retail? Like, what do you think? Like, if there was anything, would you pick one, and what would that be? Is it something that you want to feel passionate about? Do you want to be able to travel? Think of all of these major things without having to be too specific about exactly what the business is. And that's enough to start with. Because when you can go, right, I want this business and these are the kind of things I want to have in the business, then when you start to visualize and see what it's like to be working from home and getting stuff done, or being in an exchange with someone where your product or your service has really enhanced or changed their life, and being in the feeling of that and understanding, wow, like this is what I want to do. This is what I want to feel when I'm working with people. Then you'll start to get ideas. Okay, you go, well, I was really good at numbers and things. Oh, great. Okay, so what are some of the careers that I could look at, or businesses I could look at where I'm actually in that role? And then you do a little bit of research, and then you kind of lean into that and go, okay, well, what would this be like? And try that on for size. Again, have a little mental vacation in your mind to see what it would be like to do that. Now, like we were saying before with our mission in life, you can start down a road like this and go, okay, I'm going to lean into this. Maybe my own bookkeeping business would be great. And you start to do that. And then it doesn't feel like this is all. Like you're like, this is great, but this is not quite what I want. The thing is, if you start some momentum and start moving in a direction, it might not be the one that you end up on, but it's going to lead you to the one that is. A perfect example of this is, when we started My Movies. Now, as I was mentioning, we had 4 different businesses that we were running at the same time. One of them was a network marketing business. Now, I was convinced that was the business. That was going to give me the freedom I wanted. I wanted to travel the world and work from the beach and speak on stage and do all these amazing things. That was the business. Now, if someone had told me even a day before our friend approached us with the idea of My Movies that I would have created that and more through the internet, I would have laughed, because I'm like, I don't know anything about the internet. But we met our friend through the network marketing business. Wow. So if we hadn't been there, we would never have met him. He would never have come to us with the idea, and we wouldn't be where we are today.
So I think that's a really important point, right? That you are remaining open to possibilities, open to the journey, and that you're present and engaged in each step along the way. Because to your point, you don't have to know every step. You don't have to know the end result. You just have to take action, that very next step, and then be open to the possibilities. I love that example, that the person who shared with you the idea for My Movies came through the connections and the network marketing. We never know where those connections are going to come from, but to take that action and put yourself into those environments and show up fully as you, make the connections and be open. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a great trait to adopt is to be curious.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are too rigid, if it has to just be one way, then we're making life harder for ourselves than it really needs to be. For me, I'm like, let's really just go with the flow. Let's see where this leads. And I'm always open to it showing up in a different way, with a different person in a different country even. Like, living in the US, whoever thought that was going to be an option? Yet here we are. Like, so remaining open to those different things. Don't be too stuck and rigid in it being only having to be one way. And even when you decide something like, when I decided to create this curriculum and to approach schools globally, I mean, that's a mountain. That's actually a mountain on a mountain. That's massive. And so I don't get overwhelmed by focusing on the mountain. I just every day go, what am I doing today? Like, what's my next step? What's my first step?
Yeah.
And how this actually came about is that I had an idea to create a children's version of our Mind Movie software. So kids could make these Mind Movies as well, So I created it, and then I'm like, now what do I do with it? And to cut a really long story short, I got connected with a university in Colombia, in Medellin in Colombia, and we as a company committed to donating 10,000 Mind Movies for Kids accounts. And then the dean of the university said, could you please create a curriculum to go with with Mind Movies? And I'm like, yes, what do you need? And he's like, 12 lessons, can you address bullying and early school dropout? And could you get to us in a couple of weeks? That way we can translate so we can put in the school. I'm like, sure. Hang up the phone and went, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not qualified. Like, and my small self is just like telling me all the reasons I freaked out. I'm like, why did I say yes to that? Yeah. And so then I called my business partner. I said, okay, I've got this opportunity. He goes, that's great. You've got this. I'm like, okay, that's not helping. So, my process is like I was mentioning before. I sat down, did a little meditation, and I could see myself walking into the classroom in Colombia, and I could feel the kids pulling on my shirt, and they're all laughing and big smiles on their face. And I'm talking to the teacher, and she has tears because, this program has really helped for the children to be optimistic about their future. And I'm feeling what it's like to be there and to be in that conversation. And so I come out of that and I'm like, right, okay, first step. What's the first thing I should do? Do I know a teacher?
Yes.
So I reached out to a girlfriend who was a Montessori teacher, and she gave me the outline of what a lesson plan looks like. So then I figured out what I wanted. So I called my copywriter. I go, dude, you got to help me. I've only got 2 weeks to do this, but can you help me write these out? This is what I need in each of the lessons. And he said, yeah, sure. He said, but I have a secret weapon. I'm like, what's that? He goes, my wife is a teacher and she specializes in early age curriculum. I'm like, of course she does. That's what I need right now.
That is perfect.
I mean, I manifest things quickly, but that was pretty quick. Like, but that's how it works. Be clear about where it is that you want to end up, feeling what it's like to be there, believing it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And then as we expanded, because after the 12 lessons, everyone's like, what's next? I'm like, I don't know. I was lucky to get these done. And that's when my friend, who's a colleague, reached out and said, let's do this together. I mean, she's had many years of experience working with kids in trauma, and what we've created is incredible. Between her knowledge, my knowledge, that coming together, and now we're in schools here in the US and Africa and soon to be Australia. So it's it's amazing that when you can keep that vision, how everything will start to fall into place, because that's how it works.
Yeah, all the pieces become aligned and the right people are put in your path. So part of what you said that is really helpful, I think, to the audience is to be willing to ask. So you picked up the phone and you called your copywriter. Can you help me with this? if you hadn't have asked, if you hadn't shared what you were doing and asked for help, he wouldn't have known, and he wouldn't have been able to connect you with his wife. So many of us think that we have to go it alone, or that we're supposed to somehow know all the answers for all of the things, and we're supposed to know the steps, and we're supposed to be good at all of them.
Right.
And we're so often programmed to not ask for help. And so I love that that's really a critical step, is ask for help.
Yeah. And that's every big success I've had in my life, I haven't done by myself. Even when we were launching my movies, I gave you like the rainbows and puppy dogs version of that story. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong during that launch. We had, our email list was growing so quickly in our pre-launch week that our email delivery system shut the account down because they were convinced we were doing something illegal. We're like, oh my God. So, we reached out to Frank Kern, who was our mentor, who was running the mastermind group we're a member of. He got on the phone, was able to reinstate the account. We had that same said company closed down for maintenance the morning of the launch. So not only could we not stagger 80,000 people coming to the website, but people weren't getting their confirmation emails that they had purchased a program. So by lunchtime on the first day, we had 3,000 customer support emails. And I'm like, and I was customer support. So, I'm calling in favors. Guys, can you come in? Can you help me with this? So we were able to clear that backlog. We had to use PayPal. We were, Australian. We didn't have a merchant facility here. And of course, PayPal froze our account. They've never seen that much volume coming through, even though we'd been on the phone with them leading up to the launch and over-exaggerating the amount that we were going to take. But they were like, no, and of course, this was September 2008 when the economic crisis hit the planet. So they ended up freezing $500,000. We were able to pay for postage and pay for a couple of people that helped us, with our JV managers and things like that. But we had to reach out in our mastermind group. There was a woman who was an attorney. We had to reach out to her and go, you've got to help us here. They keep saying they're going to release the funds and they don't. So we got her to go to town on these guys, and they finally released the funds 6 months later. We nearly went bankrupt. It was crazy. But every time we get stuck on something and there was a challenge, it's like, okay, what's the solution to this and who can we ask for help?
Yeah.
We were never proud to be able to do that. And the thing is, we had purposely, when we came to the US, when we're on the plane on the way over, I was saying to Glenn at the time, I go, right, we're going to this seminar. We got to meet this Frank guy because he's a genius, somehow convince him to mentor us, and we've got to meet other marketers. And so at that weekend, we got accepted into his mastermind group, but we also got introduced to all these other people that lived in San Diego, and that's where we ended up staying for 6 months. They were also marketers. So even in a social situation, we were learning. We were in these conversations. We were like sponges because we were on the fast track. It's like we need to learn this stuff quick, right? So we purposely orchestrated that. We surrounded ourselves not just with people who were great friends, but then when we needed support and advice, they were able to give us the right kind of support and advice. So we were able to create that environment for ourselves.
Yeah, creating the proximity, creating the support, creating the networks. So I love that. And again, those are actionable tools that anyone can implement. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they aligned in your mission and your purpose? Are they building things similar to what you're building? Are they at different stages of their journey? I love that you found a mentor. I love that you connected with Frank and that you put yourself into this mastermind group where there were other marketers all on different stages of their journey, some more, some further along, others new like yourself. And so you created this opportunity for yourself to have the support system, to have the network of people that you could ask, that it was safe to ask, that it was comfortable to ask, that you knew could support you in the answers and the next step. So super important. And like I said, I think that's something we can all do to just be very intentional about the communities that we create. Now, you are a master connector. You have continued being part of incredible groups of aligned and like-minded individuals who are fulfilling their purpose and living in their mission of service and impact. What is the best advice that someone has given you?
God, there's been lots of advice over the years. I think the one that I like the most is to strive to never be the smartest person in the room, because that means that you're not getting challenged by the people that you're surrounding yourself with. You know, even going into this whole education space for me, man, I am so far outside my comfort zone. Like, I left school when I was 15. You know, I'm in Zoom meetings with professors and, you know, people that have double masters and all these different things. And so I'm definitely not the smartest person in these new rooms, but even with the, you know, the other groups that I am involved in, like, you know, the Transformational Leader Council or ATL, the Association of Transformational Leaders, I like to be in these kind of environments because I'm always learning. For me, if I'm not stretching myself and learning and taking on new things, to me, I feel like I'm wasting life. I'm wasting my time. You know, it kind of really lights me up. It keeps me young, so to speak. You know, I'm a part of like a women's mastermind that are all 7, 8, 9-figure earning women.
Yeah.
You know, I'm definitely not the smartest person in that room, that's for sure. And I'm constantly learning, and we're supporting and collaborating with each other. Actually, one woman from that group has an app that we're using with our children's program where they count into the phone, and then the app is able to detect from the frequency of their voice what emotions that they're feeling. So it's helping us to really help kids to identify when they're struggling and then how we can help them. So, you know, being in these kind of groups and making sure that you know, when I'm in there, the ratio to me speaking and listening is I'm always speaking maybe 20 to 30% and I'm listening 70%.
Yeah.
Because that's when I learn. If I have to be in there trying to prove myself and trying to puff myself up, then I'm missing a massive opportunity. So yes, I contribute where I can, where I feel I have something of, you know, value to say, but other than that, I'm using my ears and I'm listening to everything and absorbing everything that I can.
Yeah, I love that. Continue learning, continue growing. I love also that you touched on getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, to stretch yourself, to constantly challenge yourself and get out of your comfort zone. Now, you mentioned that you love that you feel alive when that happens. And others would say that terrifies me. I do not enjoy being uncomfortable. I do not enjoy the stretch. What is a reframe that you could share with people to enjoy being uncomfortable?
Right. Well, I've been working with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Joe Dispenza for the last 9 years. And he talks about how, you know, when we are living the same day over and over and over again, you know, we're stagnant. We're just repeating history. We're like in Groundhog Day. We get up every morning. We have the same morning routine. We drive the same way to work. We do the same kind of work. We go home. We do the same things. We sit down in front of the telly. We have a glass of wine, whatever that is. So for me, I like to get comfortable in the unknown. And really, when you think about it, we're not really in control of anything. I mean, the pandemic taught us that, you know, humanity as a whole. Here's a big lesson for you. We're not in control of anything. But when I'm comfortable in the unknown and I'm curious about what's coming next, and I'm able to move with change and see change for what it is. Like my morning routine's not even the same every day. The components are the same. You know, I still do my gratitude practice and I exercise and I listen to something educational and I do a meditation and I eat a healthy breakfast. Like that's my morning routine, but it's never the same. I'm always mixing it up. I don't want to be complacent. You know, when I'm stepping into the unknown and something comes up for me that's, you know, like, ooh, that doesn't feel good, or, you know, not what I planned. For me, it's just an opportunity to go, okay, well, what am I meant to learn here? Why has this popped up for me? Is there something, am I meant to grow? Is there something I need to learn? Is there something I need to apply here? What is the opportunity of this seemingly negative situation? How can I use this, or how can I learn from this? That's how I like to look at that. Now, there's a couple of reasons I do that. Number one, I think that there's always an opportunity to learn. And number two, when I look at it that way, like there's a book written back in the 80s by David Hawkins called Power versus Force. And he was able to measure the frequency of our emotions. And we talked about how that is, what's attracting things to us. So when we're in lower frequency emotions, let's say something negative shows up and I'm like, oh my God, well, why did this happen? Like, that's going to throw everything out. And I'm in feelings of frustration and helplessness and, and just angry, then I can't do anything about that. I start to blame the situation or blame the person. I lose all control to do anything about it because it's something outside of me. And then all I'm doing is focusing on the problem in these low frequency emotions, and what we focus on expands. So that's just attracting more of that to me. I don't want to do that. I want to be in a place of either neutrality, or which I have to start at and go, oh, this is not what I wanted, but how am I going to garner this? How am I going to, move forward from this? The pandemic was a perfect example. I was on a plane every other week, speaking on stages and living this life. And then it's like, everything just stopped. I'm like, okay, so I'm at home by myself for I don't know how long. I can't control this. Talk about being in the unknown. Yeah. I'm like, all right, so how am I choosing to see this? What am I going to do from this? And it was one of the longest and shortest years of my life. And I spent a lot of time working with a coach. I did a lot of work on myself. I actually found love, because I had the time and the space to be able to do that. Like I went, okay, how do I use this in a way that's going to propel me forward? And I think that, we all went through the pandemic. Our experience of it is different. And a lot of that had to do with our mindset on how we were choosing to navigate through that and to embrace change, even when we didn't know what that change was eventually going to be.
Yeah, embracing change, being fluid and flexible and adaptable. And I love your point about choosing your framework of it, choosing your perspective of it, choosing what can I learn from this? What am I meant to learn? How am I meant to use this? How can I use this? How do I choose to use this? How do I choose to see this? Do I choose to use this in a way that propels me forward? So I love the framework of choice, because to your point, we each have a choice in every moment of every day on how we're going to show up, what we're going to focus on, how we're going to feel, what perspective we're going to hold, how we're going to spend our time.
Yeah. And I think what helps to give us that choice is our breath. Because there are some people who've just heard your statement going, I don't have a choice. That person makes me feel angry, or that situation really boils my blood. Yes. And when we're in that position, we're reacting. Yeah. We're just reacting to everything. So it's like, yeah, we have control over nothing because we're just reacting to everything. Yeah. And there are events that are going to show up in our life that we have no control over. But what we do have control over is how we choose to look at it, how we choose to respond and not react to it, and then how long we allow it to affect us moving forward. So when you're in a situation where you feel like you're getting triggered and you're having this emotional reaction, if you stop for just a second and take a breath, that breath is enough to create a space where your brain can go, okay, hold on a minute, this is I don't want to react this way. How can I look at this differently? And that's where you get the choice. And we can all do that. Just take that breath. It just calms your parasympathetic nervous system down enough for you to go, okay, I'm going to choose to do something different here. It's really cool.
Yeah. Taking a breath, that momentary pause to shift your physiology and the biochemistry. That's a powerful reminder. Stop and breathe. If you're reacting, if you're triggered, take a breath. And then you can respond with clarity, with much more clarity and intentionality. I love that. So as we start to wind down, let's imagine that you have come to your life best lived. Everything you could have envisioned has come true, and it's been in ways so much more magical than you could have envisioned. You've left it all on the field. What do you want them to say about you?
I want them to say that that I cared, that I left a legacy, that I was able to really empower a whole new generation across the world that are stepping up in ways to save us, to save the planet, to govern and to create from a completely different paradigm of collaboration and love. And that I was an amazing friend, that I was always fun to be around, that I loved deeply, and that I left a mark, an indelible mark that won't be forgotten.
And so it is.
Yeah.
And so it is. So how can people get in contact with you? How can they learn more about Mind Movies or your educational programs or working with you as a client?
Yeah. So just go to mindmovies.com. That's our main hub website. You can, find out about the podcast there or listen to the podcast there. We have you can actually download free pre-made Mind Movies that you can start watching straight away to give you an idea of what you want your life to look like. There's all, information about the products that we have there as well. And for the children's program, if you go to personalgrowthstudies.com, you can send me an email through that website and connect with me through there. So if anyone has children in school right now, and, I think the biggest fear that parents have right now is really for the safety of their children. The pandemic has really been tough on children's mental health. I mean, they were having it tough anyway. But if this is something that you think that your school would be open to, we'd love the contact and be able to connect with you over that as well.
Yeah, that's going to really change generations of lives. To your point, it has not been easy on the kids, and they, their lives have been changed. And to be able to use Mind Movies and this curriculum that you have built out, to empower them to go forward and live joyful lives, fulfilling lives, successful lives, lives of ease and flow and impact. The ripple effect on that is wow, just wow. So as we wrap up, any parting words that you would like to share with the audience?
I think that the biggest change from when I was having that moment, struggling, thinking what's going on, to this life that I live that's way beyond my wildest dreams, is really just my mindset, my perspective, my believing that when I, put something out into the universe, when I decide that I want to do something, that I believe that it will happen. And we all have the ability to do this. We all have the ability to do this. It doesn't matter where we started from. I'm like one of 8 kids from a country town in Australia, and this is what I get to do for my life. So, we all have the ability to be able to see that future, really spend some time there, feel what that's like, and then just watch everything fall into place for you, for a beautiful life that you get to live.
Amazing. For a beautiful life that you get to live. You can do this. Thank you so much for being here, Natalie. It has been a joy and a privilege. Thank you for the work that you do in the world. Thank you for creating this incredible, incredible resource that has changed over 10 million lives and the ripple effect of that. Thank you for trusting the journey and saying yes when you got the educational call. Thank you for being open to lean into the uncomfortable and for really stepping into that full mission and purpose and living as a force for good.
Thank you, darling. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for being here. Till next time.